The Like Mike franchise, Just Right, you know him, a friend, a brother, he loves God, powerful testimony. Let's welcome and celebrate Mr. Michael Elliot.
Any dreamers in here? So we can relate. I was always a dreamer. I'm a screenwriter now, but I gotta tell you, being in Philly at like 19, man, had I met a screenwriter? 11 years before I decided to come here, who knows? So for those of you who are interested in screenwriting, you know, it's gonna be tough. You know, selling a script, it's a tough journey, but when you feel like quitting, and you wonder whether or not it's possible, I want you to remember this day and remember me. I'm a self-taught writer. I knew absolutely nothing about screenwriting. 13 months before I sold Brown Sugar. So, welcome. Pastor Teray, thanks for allowing me to do this. When Pastor Teray told me about the ARC, I was excited. This is such a great opportunity to share. And so, my thing is, I want to show you how I learned screenwriting. You won't get everything you need to succeed, but I think you'll get enough. That you'll be able to take your idea, turn it into a story, and write a script that could sell. And I really want you guys to really think about the ideas that you have and question whether or not they are truly marketable. I meet so many writers who are excited about a pitch, and the truth is, the idea is just not, it's not hot. And when you look at what's out there now, you really got to think about it and think about what you have. Is it truly marketable? Whenever you have an idea for a movie, think about the ending. Think about how it's going to end. Because what you do is once you have your idea and you know how it's going to end, then what you can do is start thinking about the obstacles along the way. But you got to know how you want it to end first. And then you kind of work backwards. Again, there's a lot more to storytelling, but I'm trying to give you like the jewels. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes when I get a script from a new writer, well, not sometimes, all the time, the first thing I do is I look at the page count, because the page count is going to tell me whether the structure is broken. And if I know the structure is broken without reading the script, I'm not going to read the script. It's a waste of time. I'm not the only one that thinks like this. People who are in the business of developing and producing movies, time is money. And if you haven't taken the time to get serious about the craft, they're not going to waste their time reading 120 pages. Because what you need to know is that every page in your script is a minute of screen time. I can be at Starbucks and I can look next to me and see someone reading a script, and I could tell whether or not the person that wrote that script is a novice or not, just by the dialogue. And I can't even read it. I could just see it. So less is more. You would be surprised if you saw some of the scripts from movies, how little dialogue there is. Everything that's in a movie, particularly one made by a studio, is intentional. You may think you care about the plot, the action, but it's the character that you're watching the movie for. And there are things that writers do to make you care about them, and that's the goal. Oftentimes, with writers who don't really know a lot about screenwriting, what they end up doing is, this is like a term you hear a lot, which is creating one-dimensional characters. My character is a fireman. And so you just think about what a guy who's a fireman does, which doesn't really make sense, because being a fireman is just a job, right? There's so many more things about that character that makes them interesting. Consider giving your character an unexpected interest. Consider giving your character a surprising truth. Consider giving your character an unexpected fear. Well, one of the things that you can do to make your character interesting is to give him a non-Ali moment. So you have this character, and you've clearly established what he or she is like, and then at some point in your story, he or she does something that's completely completely not like him or her. Another thing you could do, it's kind of similar to the Nana Ali moment, but I call it the moment of opposite. It's like you establish this character, and then for a moment, he's just not himself or herself. In only a way you know, because it's your character. Think about what your character does when no one's looking. And it's one of the tricks to add interest to your character. In the very beginning of your script, you want to establish who your characters are. And you want to do it in as little time as possible, 5 minutes. Because movies are so expensive to make, every scene you see in a major movie was there for a reason. Everything. Even if a character is just staring on the balcony, not talking, is there for a reason. Think about all the pertinent information you need to reveal about your character or lead characters and figure out how to nail that in one scene. It's done all the time. So once you establish your characters in the first 5 minutes in terms of who they are, your next goal is to set up the story. All scripts are based upon a 3-act structure. So what I'm explaining to you is the first act. Your first act should be about 25 pages, no more than 35 pages. Halfway into your first act, there needs to be what I call the setup, what the movie is really about. Once you introduce or establish your characters, think about that moment 10 to 15 pages in where you're going to establish what this movie is really about. So the next beat in your first act is the most important because it's the end of your first act, and the term for it is the inciting incident. So the easy way to think about this beat in your story is to ask yourself, what could happen in the context of my story that would make people not want to leave and go get popcorn? And if someone's reading the script, what's that beat that will make the person want to know what's going to happen now? At about 25 minutes in, something's going to happen. In your story, there needs to be something that's going to happen around 25 minutes into your script that makes us care to read the rest. So the second act is about what happens from there. It's when you begin to go from where you started from to where you're eventually going to end up from. If it's about bank robbers, you know they're going to be robbing banks. But somewhere in between your second act, which is about 60 pages long, on average, it could be 80, it could be 85, no more than 60. Because remember the structure, how many pages are in a script, right? Somewhere in the middle of your second act, there needs to be what I called a shift. It's kind of like you're going along one way, everything's cool, and then there's a moment where you know everything's going to be different from now on. The shift is the moment where now your story starts to head straight toward your ending. The sort of next key beat is the end of the second act. Essentially ask yourself, in the context of your story, what's the worst thing that can happen? You need a place to resolve your film. So you got to go from blowing it up to fixing it. That's what the third act is all about. In every movie you've ever seen, this happens. Act 3. It's the easiest. It's all about the resolution of your story. And it's easy because it's always about tying up the loose ends. The third act is short. It's short. It's the shortest act of your story. It's generally 10 minutes to 20 minutes long. Act 1, Act 2, Act 3. You got it? That's it. That's the blueprint. What do you think? Cool?
Michael, thank you so much for sharing that rich information. Make me want to be a screenwriter. Thank you all for coming. I pray that you see the value in this. Let's continue to pray for Michael and just take this and run. I believe that there's going to be some other testimonies in about 6 months or so that will really speak to the impact that the seminar's had. God bless you. Thank you for coming.